Welcome back to the show. I got inspired to talk about today's conversation merely based off of two huge factors. Number one, the fact that I've been going through a lot of it, but also number two, the fact that a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends have really been struggling or seeing the need for doing some kind of emotional release. It feels like it has been a topic of conversation, or at least something that I have seen that's been coming up over and over and over again. And I felt this inner need to really discuss what are some ways to help release out some of the blockages and some of those emotional traumas that may be holding you back, especially when it comes to the energetic side, because emotions can get trapped within the body. Emotions can get trapped within the tissue. Emotions are energy that can get trapped in these pockets of energy throughout your entire body and start to cause physical, mental, and emotional constraints and issues that you don't even realize. Maybe you do, but most likely you don't realize that they're actually connected. And it is something that I talk about to my clients, especially my Reiki clients, as I'm clearing things out. It's something that I talk to my clients about all the time. And one of the questions that comes up over and over is, well, how? How do I release? How do I let go? Why is this happening? Why is this coming up? So I thought dedicating a whole podcast to just talking about where I see the most common places of emotional trauma or emotions get trapped, and some simple things that you can do, some simples, I put that in quotation marks, of things that you can do to help to start to release that out. Because it can be really challenging. It can be really challenging to fully release when you're living in a society that doesn't fully support you acting on your emotional release. So, how many times have you been in a situation? Think back to when you were a kid, especially. How many times have you been in a situation where you were told, stop crying? It's okay. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Let it go. What are you getting so angry about? It doesn't mean anything. Like, I think about those kind of statements, and I have experienced them, especially when I was a kid. I experienced them all the time. And looking back, I realize how much, I really realize how much that helped me trap a lot of emotion within my body, a lot of trauma within my body that even to this day, I'm still working on releasing. It can build up over time. And especially if we don't have the skills when we are young, or if we don't gain the skills to start learning how to release some of this, it can start to build up, pile up, that when you get into your golden years and you haven't addressed any of this, all of a sudden you may start to notice these massive physical ailments, these emotional imbalances. Maybe your brain health is not really up to par and you're struggling with the capacity to remember what you want to remember and to live this vital and thriving life. Now, I do want to put the disclaimer here that, of course, your lifestyle and your nutrition and the way you move your body are absolutely a huge role in how your body responds and how vital you feel. But the energy of everything you do, the energy of the food that you eat, the energy of the way that you move your body, the energy of the way that you live your life, the underlying energy of everything plays a huge factor. And sometimes that even trumps the lifestyle choices that you decide to make. I have seen, and this I can speak personally, I have seen and experienced that even when you are maybe, for example, eating a piece of food that is not the healthiest piece of food for you. And you know that, you fully, completely recognize that. But that piece of food is the most decadent, it's the most delicious. You are enjoying every single aspect of that piece of food, and you're eating it with happiness. Maybe it's a family function, maybe you're out at a fair, maybe it's in an environment that really brings you a lot of joy. Like when you are enjoying that, that energy of that food is completely different within the body than if you are eating something super healthy and you're doing it with anger, resentment, and frustration. Completely different energies and completely different in how your body responds to it. So, with that being said, let's really start to dive in here about what it is that you can do on a deeper level, on a conscious level, to start allowing of this, hmm, some of this emotion, some of these traumas, some of these obstacles to start to be released. Okay, so let's start by talking about some of the things that I see all the time with my clients when they're on the Reiki table. When a client comes to me, almost inevitably, I see a lot of heavy thoughts. I see a lot of imbalances in their crown chakra, up around their third eye. I see a lot of chaos energy right around their head. And that's not uncommon. Usually, the people that come to work with me are busy professional women who have a lot of stuff going on. They're running either a business or maybe they're working on in a high level aspect of their career. They may be busy moms. They may be working through traumas. They may have so much going on that the thoughts racing through their head can feel overwhelming at times. So that does not surprise me when I see that, not in the slightest. But what is always so interesting to me is what happens when we come down into the rest of the body. Almost inevitably, right around the throat chakra, the shoulders, the neck, all of that, especially in the first session, typically tends to be blocked. It tends to have a lot of heavy energy. It feels a little bit more dense and repressive. And especially as we're moving down into the chest area and the heart, that heart chakra often feels very blocked. It feels very stagnant. And I always kind of laugh, to myself, of course, because what is so interesting to me is typically these clients, they don't have a problem with giving out love to everybody else. They typically don't have a problem with just opening their hearts and giving and volunteering and being there for people, holding space for other people, taking care of their kids, running them to different appointments. They don't have a problem with that. But what typically comes in, the blockage typically comes in around self-love and self-care and opening up that heart to be able to allow space for yourself to be seen, to be heard. And when that becomes unblocked, everything else starts to blossom. So those are typically the two most common blocked areas where I see a lot of trapped emotion, a lot of trapped heavy energy floating around. Now, as I come down into the rest of the body, there is often, and again, this isn't really a surprise to me, there's often a lot of heavy energy right at the low back. And that's right around that sacral area, that sacral chakra, the feminine, the creativity, the sexuality. Often a lot of blockages, like the back emotionally is tied to how we're carrying the world. What's going on in how we are approaching the world, like how much we feel that we're carrying. And when you don't have flexibility and that sacral root chakra, when that feels very repressed, it can start to cause more physical discomforts around the muscles and the organs and the body in that area. But it doesn't stop there. It often comes down right into the root chakra. I see the hips having and carrying a lot of heavy emotion. I see that sense of stability, that sense of foundation being a little bit more repressed, often blocked, but definitely at least a little bit more repressed because there's a lot of heavy stored energy in those hips as well. And same down in the knees. Those knees tend to have a lot of repressed energy. So typically, those are the most common areas. And those typically are the areas that need the most attention when my client is on the Reiki table. Now, you don't have to be on a Reiki table. You don't have to be in that kind of position to start to release that out. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I want to make sure that you have the tools that you can take care of yourself, open up yourself regularly, completely and fully, and to do your own work. Because, yes, you should also be getting other modalities to help release out, because sometimes it can be hard. It can be hard to do it all yourself. You have limiting beliefs, you have blockages, you have your unconscious brain. There's all of these pieces that can hold you back from fully stepping in confidently and completely to clearing out these blockages and these trapped emotions. That's why it is very beneficial to work with a practitioner. But there are things that you can do in your everyday to help start to chip away the block and also to help manage so that it doesn't get, so that these emotions don't get so blocked in the future. Now, you may be curious how emotions get blocked in the first place. So let's talk just a little bit about that. Emotions can get stored in the body through different experiences, traumas, stress, and even habitual patterns that you are used to doing. So if you have these habitual patterns that shift your posture and shift the way that you move your body, that can actually help to store emotions as well. But I also want to emphasize that these emotions can get trapped because you are a magnet to other energy. You can pick up energy of other people, places, and things, and that can get stored in your body too. And this often happens, especially when we have more leaky boundaries. If we don't allow ourselves to just let the emotions flow through us, if we like to block things off because maybe we were taught that it is not okay to cry. Maybe we were taught, or maybe you were taught, that women don't scream, they don't yell. That's unladylike. Maybe you were taught that expressing your emotion is not manly. Maybe you were taught that expressing emotion, regardless if it's sadness through tears or anger through yelling, is weak. If that resonates with you, then it's going to be that much easier for you to store and trap these emotions, regardless if they're from yourself and your life experiences or from other people, places, or things. And like I said and touched on a little bit ago, that some of these most common areas that it gets stored is in your neck, your shoulders, your back, your hips, and your stomach. Again, I am generalizing from what I see the most common because emotions can get stored anywhere in the body. I just see this as the most common places. All right, so let's just do a little bit of an activity here. I want you to kind of sink into this. This will help to really drive it home for you. I want you to think about the last time that you were angry. And I want you to bring your attention to what your physical experience and your emotion was. So if it feels more comfortable for you to close your eyes while you're doing this, go ahead and close your eyes. But I want you to sink into that physical experience, what that emotion was, and how it felt. Were you gritting your teeth? Were you tightening your jaw? Did you have this furrow in your brow? Were you clenching your fists? This can happen, these signs and cues can happen on a conscious or a subconscious level. It can happen automatically and you don't even realize it, right? Now, I want you to stop with that. And I want you to now cast your memory back to a time when you experienced grief. How did you feel? Did your upper body maybe collapse in? Did your posture start to round forward? Did you kind of curl up in a ball to keep yourself safe? Maybe you can recall the space around the front upper part of your chest. Did it feel really small? Did your heart start to tighten? And if you cried, did you sense anything in your throat, in your chest? Did you become breathless? Did you feel maybe some irregular spasms going on in your lungs as those tears fell down? What happened? Because what you're experiencing and what you're feeling are really those first signs of these emotions coming in and trying to move through you. And what happens so often is that as they do, we try to tighten up. Our bodies get really rigid because number one, it's uncomfortable. And number two, depending on how you've been conditioned, it may not be safe to express those emotions. So as you start to learn, if your eyes are closed, you can open them now. But as you start to learn about how your body responds and how you start to respond to the emotions coming in, you're going to better be able to learn how you can best let go and where you actually need to start with letting go. So, thinking about these emotions coming in. Now, we've already talked about how they are these pockets of energy and they can get trapped in the body. But how do they get trapped? Okay. They can get trapped when we start to suppress. When we start to suppress our feelings, when we swallow our words, when we don't say what we want to say, when we hold back the anger and the grief, when we don't prioritize our need for pleasure, when we don't say what we need, when instead of having fun, we decide that we're just going to be serious regardless because in the moment we have to be very serious. Unfortunately, that can carry over and it can become this perpetual way of being. And that in and of itself can in the future help you trap emotions because now you're not even sure how to respond to the emotions that are coming through. Emotions are energy in motion. They're energy in motion. And when we don't let them flow through the body like they need to flow, they can start to present as these physical discomforts, these illnesses, these imbalances, leaving us wonder What the hell is going on with our lives? Why do I feel so miserable? I used to be so much fun. I used to really enjoy life. Oh, I remember when I did XYZ. I used to be able to do that no problem. Why can't I do that anymore? I know for me, I have entered into those thought processes a lot as I started to realize how much emotion I had actually trapped over the years and how much I wasn't letting go. It's important to start to sink into that and just become aware because the first place is awareness. When you can become aware of what is coming in for you, it's better available to be able to become aware of how to let it go. Because sometimes we need to start letting go of our belief systems, of our wounds and our traumas, of the thought processes that hold us back so that we can better able let go of the emotions when they come through. And often people do that through brain rewiring tactics or different mindset shifting activities. Journaling is another really great activity to start to learn how to let that go. Emotions are vibrations. Emotions are vibrations. And the vibrations that we hold within our bodies are going to either elicit health or they're going to decrease our health. So many physical signs, so many physical symptoms that the body is speaking to you with. The body is constantly talking to you, always speaking to you. A really great book that I love to reference all the time is Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. Because in that book, she talks specifically about different physical signs and symptoms that actually are connected, she has found through her work, are connected to different emotions and different ways of thinking, behaving, or being and how you might have trapped that within the body. So I'm going to give you just a few examples. And here are a few examples, again, that I actually see all the time with my clients. So that's why I wanted to pick these examples because of how prevalent it is that I see in the work that I do all the time. Anxiety. Anxiety, according to Louise Hay, is very much connected to not trusting the flow and process of your life. If you have bladder problems, so maybe you have some incontinence, maybe you have something else going on bladder wise, that's often emotionally very connected to anxiety. How are you holding on to old ideas, things that don't resonate anymore? What are you afraid of letting go of? Where are you being pissed off? Right? Like all of the things that you're trying to hold on to, all the things that are making you angry that you're afraid to let go of on an emotional level, on an emotional vibrational level, that can land right in the bladder. Louise Hay also says when it comes to the breast area, that can represent mothering, nurturing, nourishment. If you have cysts or lumps, it could be a refusal to nourish yourself. Maybe you're so used to putting everybody else first, or maybe you over mother. Maybe you're an overprotector. Maybe you have overbearing attitudes. If you have something going on with the breast area, that could be connected to those emotions. I'm going to give you two examples. So I had a client while on the Reiki table, we were doing the clearing work. I was doing the clearing work. And when I got over her left breast, the dense energy there was very palpable. I could feel it throughout my entire body. And it took a good amount of time to really start clearing off that energy. Now, in the energy healing world, in the energy world, The left side of the body is typically associated with your feminine energy. The right side is typically related to the masculine energy. So if we're talking about left side feminine, we're talking about the intuition, the creativity, the softness, the divine feminine, the resting, the relaxation, the mothering. If we're talking about the masculine side, we're talking about the doing, the taking action, the putting things into motion, that warrior kind of mentality. She had a lot of it over her left breast. And when I sat and talked to her afterwards, and we talked about this in particular, she said, that's really interesting because I have been over mothering and over protecting because I am so scared. I'm so scared that if I don't, I am going to lose the mothering ability and the children that I so very much love. And I just thought that was really interesting because it completely lined up with what I was seeing energetically and emotion wise, and how that emotion might have gotten trapped into that left breast. Now, I told you I'd give you two examples. My second example is actually from me. And I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet. This is actually really new. I only started to just talk about this publicly in my email list in my community. Okay, so what happened to me was back in December. It was around Christmas time. It was a week before Christmas. And I decided I was motivated. I had kind of like this little intuitive hit to do a self breast exam. It's been a really long time since I've done one. I think that the last time that I did, I might have been watching Blossom on TV and I was talking to a friend on a phone, maybe. Like it was a really long time ago, regardless. I decided to do just a little bit of a self breast exam. And when I did, I found a big lump. It was really painful. It was really scary. And as I started to process that emotion and I started to allow myself to move through that, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know or have any clue if it was a cyst, if it was cancer, and I think about my dad just a year ago passed away from cancer. My grandma passed away from cancer. Like there's cancer in my family. So of course the red flags went up. And I started to become extremely concerned. I didn't tell anybody about it. I was just more in my own trying to understand what to do next. When I called my doctor the next day, I couldn't get into her office until about 2 months later. So I thought, okay, I'm going to just explore. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to try to understand what's going on. And when I did, I realized it might just be a cyst. Okay, that may be all that it is. But when I started to really connect into the emotions that are tied to the breast area, and I learned about what those detailed emotions were, oh man, I realized at that point I was overextending myself so much that I was not nourishing myself. I was putting everybody else first. At that time, I was doing extreme caregiving for my grandparents, and refusing to take a step back. I was really stepping into this place of overworking, trying to put all this extra attention into my clients and being there and holding space for them, overprotecting, over mothering, not really allowing people to just be responsible for themselves to open up. There was a lot of fear stuff that was going on with me at that point. And I realized looking back at that time, it made complete sense that if I was going to have some trapped emotions, if I was going to have some areas within my body that were going to be representative of this. If this was going to show up, it would make a lot of sense that it would have been in my breast tissue. Now, everything is okay. I got doctor's appointments. I've had ultrasound scans. It's all good. I'm good. But I just want to emphasize my example to you that our body is always talking to us, and things can come up and show us these signs that we may have no idea what's actually happening on the back end, emotionally, and mentally, that's causing these physical issues to start to pop up and become a real problem. So, again, sinking into how is your body talking to you? Now, Louise Hay also talks about things like if you have weight issues, that could mean that maybe you're being oversensitive. Maybe it could represent a fear or a need for protection. Maybe that fear is helping you to cover up some hidden anger or resistance to forgive. Maybe that extra weight that's on you may be actually helping you to run away from your feelings. Maybe it's representative of some self-rejection or some insecurity, or maybe seeking fulfillment. Again, I'm talking here merely from the emotional side, not from a physical side where you might be having some issues because your nutrition is off or you have something else pop up that is causing you to keep weight on. We're talking just about the emotions. Louise Hay also talks about fatigue. Fatigue is often connected to things like resistance and boredom, a lack of love for what you might be doing. If you have indigestion problems or something that is more digestion in general, like how are you not digesting life? What kind of anxiety is going on? What kind of dread? What kind of gripping fears are you having that's not allowing you to digest life fully and completely? If you have a lump in your throat, if you feel like you can't, swallow very well, or you feel like there's just something there and you don't know what it is, how are you not being able to express yourself? What kind of fear is coming up? What are you not saying? What in life are you not trusting enough that you can speak your voice? Not everybody is going to feel exactly this, but it's a really good place to start, and it's a great place for exploration. That's why I love the book, because it gives a bunch of different pieces that could be the emotion tied. And if any of them resonate with you, or if all of them resonate with you, it's a great place to start to explore so you can learn how maybe you are holding on to these emotions and trapping things in that you don't even realize that you are. Again, the entire body and our body organs can directly be tied to some of these emotional ties. But today, I want to talk about some of those specific ones that I see all the time and specific ways that you can start to just let it go and you can start to move into more of that released energy. So the first thing, let's start this out with saying the top 3 ways, the top 3 simpler ways without having to see a practitioner, things that you can do on your own that can actually help you to step into more of this healed place. Okay, let's start with that. Number 1, letting the emotions out. And if you feel resistance to letting the emotions out, then that is definitely a place that you need to start with your healing process. But letting the emotions out, if you need to cry, cry. If you need to yell or scream, yell and scream. Again, as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself, let these emotions out. Maybe you're pounding a pillow, maybe you're screaming into a pillow, maybe you're breaking something outside. You know, I remember years ago when I did not realize how much emotion that I was actually trapping. I will never forget this one moment in time. I was so angry. I had so much anger deep, deep, deep within me. And I was not expressing it. I wasn't saying what I needed. And I got into this big fight. And I was in my kitchen. I got into this big fight verbally. And I didn't know how to let the words out. I literally did not know how to express myself because I was so not used to doing that. That as I was cutting up fruit during this angst and rage, I took the fruit and I threw it all the way across the room and it splattered so hard on the floor. Yeah, I had a huge mess to clean up, but again, that was the way that at that point in my life, I knew how to get it out. I I wish it came out a little bit healthier in the sense that it wasn't so explosive, but I didn't know how to express myself. So if you struggle with the expression of letting those emotions actually flow, then find it in other ways that it can come out. So again, when you feel it coming in, let it out the best you can. You may not always be in a situation that is easy, and that's okay, but do it as soon as you can and as soon as you are in a situation that you can. Number two, journaling. So we can talk all about brain rewiring work and mindset shifting, and all of that stuff is extremely valuable and super helpful in allowing yourself to release these trapped emotions because you start to rewire how you actually think. But one of the top places to start is just journaling, getting it out of your head and getting it onto paper. Or maybe getting it out of your head and speaking it onto an audio file. But you need to get it out. Our subconscious brain is amazing at protecting us, and we don't want to let that go. But it's also really good at not allowing us to see some of the things that are ready to be released and that we don't necessarily know about. So, journaling in whatever capacity is a great way for that to happen. You can do automatic writing. You can write a letter to the thing that is frustrating you. You can write about your day and the things that are going on. You can write about your emotions and how you're feeling. Just get it out. The next piece that I have found to be super helpful, and which is what I'm going to talk about more extensively here, is through specific, conscious, intentional body movement. Now, I'm not talking about going for a run or lifting weights. Yeah, maybe you can release out some of the stress that way. That's definitely beneficial for your body in a multitude of ways. But that's not what I'm talking about when we're talking about intentional emotional release. I'm talking about doing specific movements that are going to help specific areas of your body to open and release a little bit easier. Now, I did make a YouTube video that is going to take you through an entire flow of all of these things that I'm going to speak on. So if you want to actually do it in real time and do a flow, there is a YouTube video that is down in the show notes. So just scroll on down there. You can click on that link and then actually do the movement practice with me. But let's just talk about what they are. So again, I just want to reiterate, even though the entire body and your body's organs can be directly connected to specific emotional ties, what I'm about to talk about are what I see most common each and every day, and with almost all of my clients when they come onto the table. Number one, your jaw. Right up here in that jaw area, your emotions of anger and resentment are often held there, and they're often held around your mouth. If you have this sore throat, if you have mouth ulcers, or if you grind your teeth at night, that could actually be a sign that there is really this excessive or this overacting or stagnant energy that needs to be released. One super simple way is for you to really unlock the jaw and simulate like this yawning motion. Now, I'm not going to do it right here on this video because I have the accompaniment to go through that, but I'm just going to describe it. So, one of the things that you can do is simulate a yawn. And as you're yawning, you're pulling and you're breathing all of that air in. And instead of closing your mouth to exhale, you keep your mouth fully open into that yawn and you exhale out a nice, loud exhale. One of the things that you can also do while you're like, especially if you have some pain around your temples or you have pain that's coming down into the jaw, one of the things that you can do is giving yourself a little bit of a self massage right up there around your temple as you're doing this movement. That can help you to allow things to release and calm down a little bit more. One thing I want to emphasize with this, though, is that as you do that exhale, make sure that you are really sighing it out. There's power in the voice. We want the vocal cords to be activated, not only to help release out some of these trapped emotions, but also to stimulate the vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is that nerve that is really supportive for your immune health, for your body's resiliency in how your body approaches your immunity. So, stimulating those vocal cords is going to be super beneficial. So, I definitely recommend that you do that piece as well. Now, as we move down into the body, we're going to come down into the neck. The space around the neck and the throat is deeply, deeply connected with communication, with self expression. It correlates, like I said earlier, to that fifth chakra, that throat chakra. And so many people hold tension right here. Maybe they've held their tongue their entire life. Maybe they've swallowed what they've wanted to express. Maybe this has become a long-term behavior. And perhaps you feel compromised in your ability to really speak up for yourself. Those are big indicators that you may have some trapped emotions right there in your neck area. Imbalances can manifest into things like thyroid problems, maybe some swollen glands. You could have chronic neck pain. We're going to get down into the shoulders in a moment, but a lot of times your neck pain and your shoulder pain are directly related. So if you notice you have a lot of discomfort there, it could be simply from the neck. I'm sorry, from the throat and the neck area. Now, I'm going to actually give an example about that for myself as well. So my neck and my shoulders are perpetually tight. I always joke and say when I go to get my massages, like I have rocks. Like here's how many rocks I have in my shoulders right now because they are constantly tight. And one thing that I have connected to that is my entire life, it was more safe to hold my tongue. It was more safe to not say what I needed. I felt like I needed to move into a people pleaser kind of role. It was just more safe to not use my voice. And there's a lot of pieces that go into that for me in particular. But I find it interesting that I have always had neck issues that had gotten worse over the years, especially into my 20s, when I found it the hardest at that point in my life, the absolute hardest to use my voice and speak the way that I needed to speak. So, again, examining with where you're at because it may be connected. Now, as we move into your shoulders, I always kind of reference to that being like this modern day issue, this modern day shoulder issue because it can rise from unhealthy posture, from these tight, painful shoulders, from being on computers all day long, from holding the weight of the world and all of the things that you need to do that are on your to-do list. It could reflect how overburdened you are right now, how much hurt or heartbreak you might be experiencing. It could also subconsciously be trying to armor you and to protect you so that you don't have to take on more, so that you don't have to open up, so that you don't have to speak the things that you need to speak. Remember, I said the shoulders and neck are really connected. It could be that maybe you're carrying around these burdens in life that are making you feel helpless and making you feel hopeless. Maybe there's some depression there or that anxiety piece. What's causing your anxiety? What's causing some of that depression? To really process any stuck or excessive emotions right there in the shoulders, I like taking a nice big deep inhale and bringing those shoulders up, actually forcing my body into more of a tense state, forcing my shoulders to rise higher than what they're already rising, and to activate those muscles even deeper and be consciously aware of that. You can even take your fingers and do a little squeeze on top of each shoulder as you're squeezing them up to emphasize that tightness and to become better connected into the tightness that is happening. Stay there for a moment. You can be there as long as you want. You can be there as long as you can physically take it, right? That's up to you. Everybody's different. But when you're ready, exhale out, soften those shoulders and those arms, let it drop down, feel that excess energy flow out, sweeping through the rest of your body, flowing out of your body. And you can repeat that as many times as you feel that you need. I do recommend that you repeat it a couple times so that you are allowing that conscious energy to flow. Now, remember, and I didn't say this in the beginning, I should probably said this already, but everything is with intention. So as you're doing this, have that intention of, I'm tightening, and that intention of, okay, I'm releasing it out. I'm letting go. I'm letting go of that burden that I might be carrying around. I'm letting go of some of that hopelessness or that helplessness. I'm letting it all go. Awareness, intention, and specific activity to release the emotions go hand in hand. And it is critical that you put them all together because that is how the process becomes that much more flowing and that much easier. Okay, so let's talk about the chest. The chest and the space around the heart are really highly potent areas in the body. In a lot of spirituality or in a lot of thought processes, especially traditional Chinese medical traditions, there is this connection that your heart is that space between the heaven and the earth. It's where the energies merge together. It's where the physical and the spiritual self unite. So this area can very much be representative of our feelings of love, our feelings of grief, our feelings of depression, tightness, blockages. So if you're feeling more tight, if you feel blocked there, if you feel these imbalances, if you're feeling, if you have any kind of heart issues, if you have high blood pressure, if you have poor mental health, any kind of cardiac conditions, it could be coming from emotions that are directly tied right into the heart area. And that's something to pay attention to, because if you find depression, anxiety, all of these pieces creeping up into your life over and over and over again, I challenge you to step in and ask yourself, what is my heart not allowing me to open to? Where am I not allowing grief to flow through me and exit? Where am I not allowing myself to open up in love? Where am I giving too much love to others and not enough love to myself? To release, to open this up, one of my favorite moves is an upper body cat camel with purposeful breathing. So essentially, like if you know what a cat camel is in yoga, you just move that to more the upper body where you're pulling. You might have your hands back behind your neck or behind your head. I find that to be the easiest, but you're just pulling and bringing the upper part of your body, that heart area, the chest area, your elbows, you're pulling everything together and you're rounding in to make it as compact and small as you can. And at the same time, you're exhaling out that air, you're exhaling out the emotion. And as you open, as you spread your elbows out wide, you lift your chest, you expand, you lift your neck, you open up, you inhale that fresh breath, that healing breath, that clean air. And you continue to do this, exhaling as you close in with that intention of closing and gapping everything in. And then opening up with that intention of allowing yourself to really expand fully and completely. And as you expand and as you contract, that starts to stimulate some of this emotion that gets trapped within that area, some of that energy that gets trapped. It begins to stimulate it so that it can better move and free itself, so that it can better open and flow out of you as you're inhaling and exhaling your breath. Again, setting that intention of what you want to release is really beneficial. All right, we have two more. I want to come down to the back now, moving down into the back. This, like I said earlier, it represents the support of your life. It represents how you're being supported in life. If you have back problems, if you have more rounded shoulders, we're going to actually let me talk a little bit here about, upper to lower back. If you have rounded shoulders and it's more in that upper part around the shoulder area, maybe you're carrying these burdens of life. Maybe you feel that helpless and that hopelessness, kind of what I spoke to already. But if it's coming down into your lower back, maybe it's a fear or a lack mindset, a fear of money, a lack of financial support, a lack of how life is supporting you. This foundation is right there at your root chakra. It's stimulating the root chakra. Your root chakra is all about foundation and support and stability in life. If you're in the middle part of your back, that is much more about guilt. It's right there at your heart. It's about the grief. It's about who's stabbing you in the back, who's not supporting you. How are you not open to allowing people into your life to give you the support that you need? Maybe feeling unloved. Maybe you're holding back the love. Maybe it's a lack of emotional support. So each area of the back, in your back health, in your back emotional health, is connected to different kinds of emotions, depending on where it's laying and what chakra is starting to stimulate. My favorite way to release out for the back, and I'm going to specifically talk about the low back in particular, but then also the mid back and the upper back. So we're going to kind of attack both of them here. So if we're looking mid and upper back specifically, I love just a standard cat camel, doing that full spine work, allowing the spine to fully round and then also arch. So you'd be on all fours doing the full cat camel. That is a great way to release out the energy for the upper, mid, and even a little bit of that lower back. But to really get into the low back, I love a simple low back twist. This can be a static twist where you're just laying in the low back twist, or you can do a moving low back twist, especially if you feel a lot of tightness or a lot of mobility issues there. Expanding into the opening and the closing for the low back helps to, again, expand and move the energy of the trapped emotions that may be surrounding in that area. Always putting the intention in, always using the breath, inhaling and exhaling throughout so the emotions can be released more efficiently. And then let's come down into the hips. The hips are the final area that I see the most trapped energy consistently with my clients. And your hips are really very much related to how you're moving forward in life, how you're opening up to possibilities and your future, but it expands even more. It dives into your pleasure, creativity, frustration, particularly related to the sexuality that you feel, like how sexy you feel in your body, how sexy you feel in your relationships. And I say that not necessarily just on maybe the conventional definition of sexiness, but on your own definition of that. What is your definition of sexuality? What is your definition of what sexiness is? That is how it relates to the hips. Those are the main emotions that I see all the time with the hips and the pelvic area in general. And the stiffness in the hips or that disconnect from your pelvic floor, those are two huge signs that you may be feeling this trapped emotion or these trapped emotions really setting in. But also, how uninspired are you feeling in your life? Are you feeling uninspired in love? Are you feeling uninspired in your career? Are you feeling like it's way overdue that you have not tapped into your creative outlets? We're not just talking about your root chakra, which is right there around your hip area. We're also talking about the sacral. We're talking about the pelvic floor. We're talking about bladder issues. We're talking about all of the things that could be going on with the pelvis and with your hips. And as things get tight, or as you notice these physical signs and symptoms starting to pop up, that could be connected to you having some emotions that are trapped right there in the hips. And my favorite thing for this is two things. Number one, I love something super simple like a wide-legged child's pose. The wide-legged child's pose just allows those hips to open freely, but also allows your pelvis to rotate and just move into that nice, relaxed, disconnected state from the hips themselves. Also, it brings you into the support of being on the floor and being completely still, completely rested, completely at one with the ground. Very foundational, very supportive, very nourishing, but also it brings you into a place of rest and support, which is your feminine side, your sacral side. So you're really tapping into that sacral and that root chakra energy, getting into that wide leg child's pose. The other one that I like, and this one's a little bit more active, this is a 90-degree leg and hip switch. So essentially what you would do is sit on the floor with both legs bent at 90 degrees out in front of you. Your heels are going to dig into the ground as you switch your legs from side to side, trying to keep your heels into the ground and keep your hips stationary. If that is, it's hard to describe that one just through verbal. So I would definitely recommend going over to the YouTube video and checking that out so that you can see exactly what I mean with those hip switches. But that is a great one to actively start moving your hips through motion and actively allowing yourself to inhale and exhale as you're moving so that you're really stirring up that energy that may be trapped in those hips. And again, like I've said multiple times, intention is everything. So set your intentions while you're doing that movement. You know, as I was growing up, I really thought, truly, I thought real health, true health was all about what you were eating, how hard you were exercising, maybe a little bit of meditation. Like that was really my mindset for a long time. It's also the mindset for a lot of people that I know still. But what I've learned over the years through my own transformation, through my own self-growth, through my own brain rewiring work, through my own living life is that it is that is one very small piece of the pie when it comes to overall health and wellness and vitality. Because so much more is about the energy and the emotions and how that's dulling our shine or how that's making us feel more vibrant and alive. How it's keeping us imbalanced or how it's opening us up to possibilities. I originally went to school for psychology because I loved the brain and I loved people's behaviors and understanding why people did what they did. I loved exploring emotions. And I think even back into that time, I already knew that the emotions were such a key role. I just wasn't connecting it in my own life because I had my own things I needed to work on. I had my own bridge and my own journey that I needed to walk over and walk through in order to be able to see and connect all of that. But when it comes to true health and true vitality and living a life of pure happiness, your emotions and your energetic work is one of the absolute key foundational pieces way above how you're exercising and what you're eating. And that may sound a little controversial, but I say that because I have seen it in action in my own life. I've seen it in action in my clients and my friends. And I have seen the difference between pushing through and trying to be healthy from more of that conventional standpoint of eating the right foods and exercising enough versus looking looking at my body, looking at my soul as a whole, honoring my body and what I am moving through in this lifetime, honoring everything that's going on, honoring my emotions as they're coming in, honoring the hardships and the traumas and learning how to use them for the betterment of who I am. And not allowing myself to become a victim of the emotions, not allowing myself to become a victim of the traumas and the things that I've experienced, and not allowing myself to get stuck. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do today. I'm encouraging you to just become aware, to explore, and to step into this place of exploration, this place of exploration and understanding that it's so much more What else can you do? And that's what I'm going to leave you with today, my friends, is just this inspiration of you are way more powerful than you realize. And these emotions that are coming in, they can serve you in so many ways, but they don't need to be trapped within your body. And you can let them go. And you can start the process on your own and use other tools and modalities sprinkled in to really help clear away that which maybe you are not at the emotional and mental and conscious level yet of letting go on your own. So take this and move forward with it. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, I would love to hear what your questions and comments are. Let me know so that I can help to guide you through a little bit easier, a little bit deeper, and a little bit more smoothly as you are experiencing this amazing journey of life that you're on right now. And you're doing it in the most healthy way possible and bringing the most vitality to your life that you can possibly bring. Have an amazing day.